The ground shook before the sound reached me, and I knew something was dying in the sky. I could not run. My wings were too thin, my legs too weak, and the sand under my white scales was already burning my skin raw. I had been left in this basin since dawn, the place where my own kind drop the hatchlings who will not survive the season. I was one of them, pale, wrong, marked from the moment I cracked out of my shell. A trail of fire tore across the clouds above me, screaming louder than any shrike, and it slammed into the ridge less than a mile away. The blast knocked the breath out of my small chest and flattened the grass around me flat as glass. Every shrike in the basin scattered into the sky, shrieking, and for one heartbeat I thought the impact would finish what my mother had started when she walked away and did not look back. I lay still, waiting for the fire to reach me too. It did not come as fire. It came walking out of the smoke on two legs, wrapped in gray metal that hissed with every step, dragging one leg behind it, like it had been broken, and forced to work anyway. I had never seen anything like it. Not dragon, not beast, not bird. It made a sound as it walked, low and ragged, a sound of pain that it did not try to hide, and that alone told me it was not like any creature I knew. On my world, pain is hidden. Pain is weakness, and weakness gets you left in a basin to die. It saw me. I flinched back against the sand, too weak to even lift my head properly, and I waited for the killing blow. It knelt down instead. Up close, its skin was soft, and its eyes were a plain, ordinary brown, but they moved differently than any eyes I had known. They went straight to my ribs, to my cracked lips, to the raw patch of sand where I had tried and failed to dig myself a strip of shade. It spoke in a language like water running over stones, low and careful, and even though I understood none of the words, I understood the tone. It was the tone my mother used to use, before I hatched pale instead of gold, before I became something she could not look at. It pulled a glove off one hand and reached toward me slowly, the way you reach toward something that might shatter. I did not have the strength to pull away. Then it tipped a small metal flask against my mouth, and water, real water, spilled across my burning tongue. I did not know yet what an engineer was, or a starship, or a fleet, or why this creature had fallen out of the sky, instead of flying safely past our world, the way the old stories said, the sky things sometimes did. All I knew was that something had fallen from the heavens bleeding and broken, and it had looked straight at the thing every dragon on this world called wrong, and it had knelt down anyway. "Hey," it said, in the first words I would ever learn from a human tongue. "You're okay. I've got you." I believed it. I do not know why. I had no reason to trust a stranger from beyond the sky, but something in that torn, exhausted voice made a promise I could feel settle into my bones, and for the first time since dawn, I let my eyes close without expecting it to be the last time. His name, I would learn later, was Daniel. He was not a soldier and not a hunter. He fixed things, machines that flew between stars, and his ship had been struck by a storm of ice rock while passing our system, forcing him down onto a world his own people had never mapped. He had no weapons beyond a small cutting tool meant for metal, and no way to call for help until his ship's beacon finished repairing itself, which would take 3 days. 3 days. I had less than one left in me when he found me, if I am honest. He built a shelter that first night out of scraps torn from his ship, propping broken metal panels together to block the wind, and he sat beside me under it with a small light glowing between us. He did not know what I ate. He did not know if I was dangerous or venomous, or if my kind hunted in packs that would come looking for me. He knew none of that, and still he stayed. On the second day, the shrikes came back. I heard them before I saw them, a high whistling call that every hatchling on this world learns to fear before we learn to fear anything else. 3 of them, wide as a grown man is tall, wings like leather stretched over bone, circling the smoke that still rose from his broken ship. They were hunting the noise, the fire, and anything weak enough to be worth the effort. I was exactly that. Daniel stood between me and the sky with nothing but his cutting tool and a length of pipe he had pulled from the wreck. I remember thinking, with whatever small mind a starving hatchling has left, that he was going to die for a creature he had known for one day. A creature not even his own kind had left him a lifetime to understand. He did not die. He was faster than a shrike expects prey to be, faster than anything with 2 legs has a right to be, and when the first one dove, he swung the pipe into its wing joint and sent it crashing into the sand instead of onto me. The other 2 broke off, screaming, circling higher, unwilling to test him twice. He stood there afterward, breathing hard, blood on his sleeve from a cut I did not see him take, and he looked back at me and smiled like it had been nothing at all. That was the moment something shifted in my chest that had nothing to do with hunger or thirst. By the 3rd day, I could stand. Not well, not for long, but I could lift myself off the sand on legs that no longer shook quite so badly, and I understood, somehow, that it was because of the water he kept giving me, the strips of dried food from his own stores that he broke into pieces small enough for my mouth, food he needed just as badly as I did, and gave away without a second thought. His beacon finished its repair as the second sun touched the horizon. A light on his wrist began to blink, and he laughed, a real laugh, tired and relieved, and he knelt down next to me one more time. "They're coming to get me," he said, and even without knowing his words yet, I understood the shape of them. A goodbye. I did not want him to go. I did not have the words to tell him, and even if I had, I do not think he would have understood a hatchling's cry any better than I understood his language. But I pressed my head against his hand anyway, the way I had seen him touch me on that first terrible night, and he went very still. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Yeah, I feel that too." When the ship came down out of the clouds hours later, sleek and silver, and nothing like the wreck still smoking on the ridge, other humans stepped out of it in gray uniforms, weapons ready, eyes sharp with the caution of people who had just found a species they knew nothing about. They found their engineer sitting in the sand with a starving albino dragon curled against his side, and not one of them understood, at first, why he refused to leave without me. He carried me onto that ship himself. I remember the strange hum of the metal floor under my claws, the cold air that smelled of nothing I had ever known, and the way every human on board watched me, the way I imagine my own kind should have watched me from the start. Not with disgust, but with curiosity, and something close to wonder. It took years before the humans and my people understood each other well enough to speak as equals. Years before treaties were signed and cities were shared, and the sky above my world stopped belonging only to shrikes and storms. But it began there, in a basin in the sand, with one broken man who fell out of the stars and decided that a creature everyone else had called wrong was worth every risk he took to keep alive. I am old now, my scales grown pale silver instead of pure white, and hatchlings gather around me on quiet evenings to ask why my kind, the white ones, the ones once left in the sand to die, are honored above all others in every clan across this world. I tell them it was not luck. It was not chance that a human ship fell from the sky exactly where I lay dying. It was the simple fact that somewhere among the stars, there exists a kind of creature that looks at the weakest, most broken, most unwanted thing in any wilderness, and instead of turning away, kneels down. I tell them that is the day everything changed for us, not because the humans were stronger than we were, though they were, and not because they carried weapons beyond anything our world had seen, though they did. It changed because one man knelt in the sand and offered water to a creature every instinct should have told him to fear, and in doing so, taught an entire species what it truly means to be chosen.